I'd like to explain the process of photo identification. Our survey area is the Indian River Lagoon. With the money from the license plate, we were able to do intensive surveys along the lagoon. Our coverage is 215 miles survey route. Over the years, I've traveled to California and back by a very slow-moving boat about 8 times. We were the first to do a comprehensive inventory of Indian River Lagoon dolphins. So we take a photograph of every fin that we see on our survey route. And again, with the money, we were able to acquire state-of-the-art digital technologies. We were the first lab to go fully digital. Remember when we started, it was back in the days of floppy disks. So we were able to incorporate how to analyze, store data, and do so digitally, probably one of the first in the world. In the lab, we sort through literally hundreds of thousands of images that we take out during our dolphin sightings. They're analyzed by, for publications. Also with the money, we've invested in long-term biological scientists who are very speedy. It's a long-term process. It's a 1 in 5 ratio. 1 day in the field is about 5 days in the lab to analyze the data. It mainly comes from sorting and then in analyzing into the particular projects that we're interested in. It's not so much the matching that takes time. Again, the long-term investment in analysts, they are quicker than any computerized program that we've ever used to match dorsal fins. We have over 1,500 dolphins cataloged. And the importance of the longevity of the study is to be able to track dolphins over time in fin changes. So as you can see, this is an animal that we have followed from birth. MASH at 1 year, he acquired a small notch at 2 years. And then at 4 years of age, he had just been dispersed from his mother. So that's when he starts to acquire nicks that he'll have throughout his life. But you can see by age 6, we would have lost him to the population, thought maybe a whole different dolphin came into the lagoon. So that's the significance of following an animal over the course of its life. The scientific value, why we do photo identification, is once you know an individual, you can look at vital rates, abundance, home ranges, you can look at birth rate, death rate, human cause mortality, health, and trends. And this talk, I'm going to focus on movement. But it all translates into what we'd like to do, and that's into management. Marine mammals are protected underneath the Marine Mammal Protection Act, 1972. They're designated by NOAA into stocks, and those are geographic management units. They attribute human mortality to these populations, and from there you get a rank of your status: endangered, threatened, strategic, and then that translates directly into conservation policy. So what we were able to do is we found that there were resident dolphins, lifelong, year-round resident dolphins, and interestingly they had particular site fidelity. The geographic area here is Mosquito Lagoon, one community. We found an entire different community that did not interact with Mosquito Lagoon dolphins in the Northern Lagoon. We found another one in the Southern Lagoon, and also one in the Central Lagoon. Interesting about the central animals is that they do have contact with both northern and southern populations, so you can see that there is opportunity for genetic exchange as also disease transmission. We went out into the Atlantic Ocean and found 300 more dolphins that we didn't see in the lagoon, vice versa. So that translated into policy. We were the first along the eastern seaboard of the United States to be declared a stock, the Indian River Lagoon estuary stock, and then as well a coastal stock out in the Atlantic. Policy is constantly evolving. They don't often go hand in hand, so we feel like we're at the cutting edge. For example, I sat in a NOAA consortium in 2011 where we were designing the methods to define what a stock was in an estuary. So I think that we're ahead of the curve in getting our stock declared much earlier. The second aspect that we're looking at is mortality. And mortality is significant because you want to attribute mortality to a particular stock. And we didn't know if the spikes in mortality that we were seeing starting in about 1996 were from another population that came into the group, if it was animals from New Jersey traveling into the lagoon seasonally. And also in 2013, we're having that's just to April of 2013. So we are well situated to have one of the highest records of mortality in the lagoon. So what we did is we wanted to know if the dolphins that died were residents. Do you live here and die here? And we looked at it, over 100 dolphins. We identified every distinct dead dolphin that came through the stranding network as an Indian River Lagoon local dolphin. So the red is the dead, red's dead, live is yellow. What's also interesting about this is they die in their own community. So on the left, the Mosquito Lagoon community, central, northern community, central, and as well the southern community. So they're dying right within their communities. A few exceptions, and what's interesting about Brian and Amy's work is that we had 2 wandering dolphins over time. We had one wander all the way into Lake Monroe in Orlando, and as well one into the Loxahatchee River. These were defined animals that we knew from the northern lagoon. And these 2 were never recovered, sadly. This is just NOAA speak for what we're doing. So we defined a stock. We attributed mortality to the Indian River Lagoon stock. And next, and part of how they regulate stocks is that they're looking at human impacts. So we're looking at human impacts and birth rate. So we have a number of dying, but how many are replenishing the population? So we're also looking at birth rate. We don't want to use the theoretical model, which they're using to calculate recovery of stocks or for birth rate, death rates, because we feel like ours is much lower. We've had an animal, a mother, have up to 5 calves that have never survived to 1 year of age. There's also offloading in firstborns. The firstborns receive the brunt of the mother's contaminant load, so they have a much higher mortality rate. So we're currently working on our rates of birth and death individually into the dolphin communities where they live and where they're exposed. So right now the lagoon stock is declared strategic. That means that it's likely that the direct human impact and death is exceeding their ability to maintain an optimum sustainable population level. We want to make sure that we never hit the threatened list or the endangered list, which is a lot of what we see now: disease or predation, inadequacy of regulatory mechanisms, and habitat decimation. So the next phase of our work, really what we'd like to do is base kind of a population model based on the US EPA. They did this for the health of the estuaries in the report, and they graded it on the water quality, sediment quality, benthic index. And we'd like to take that into sort of a best places to live dolphin index. So they're very particular to where they live, and then to give local county policymakers an idea of how to protect their area and their regions, because dolphins have such strong site fidelity to these areas. So we would take our work in as far as home ranges and densities with Adam's work on EPI, and the strandings with Steve and Julie, mortality rates, the HERA data, compile all that together with calf survival. Hearing, dolphins are having hearing loss. It's attributed to contaminant loads. Interestingly, 4 out of the 5 fish that they eat make sounds, produce sounds, so that could have significant impact. And also couple it with the HAB work that Amy and Peter and Brian are all doing, the bacteria. We have just unprecedented opportunity to pool together a compilation of dolphin health in the lagoon. And this would not have been possible without the long-term funding. And what's important about it is that it's flexible to meet our needs, to be able to respond to these events as they occur. Thank you. We've been so focused on sort of the science side of it and getting it into policy that we've missed sort of the public part. That's what we're going to work with our communications group next. We have great people to do that, and we want to get the word out to making dolphins in your region part of your family. It'd be terrific if we could have local people even putting their dolphins that they see onto a web repository of fins and looking at the history of them. Thank you.